been participating in some of our preliminary meetings, and we conducted our first set of hearings from the prison, and you helped us a lot to get access to the inmates and to the facilities. So you are aware of our mandate.
Yes.
But we are obliged to remind you of our mandate, because that's what the rules require us to do when we have a witness that comes before us. And our mandate is to investigate and establish the truth regarding what happened at Montagne Posee prison on 5 and 6 December 2024. And we also will inquire on other events that are directly or indirectly connected to 5 and 6 December 2024. My name is still Justice Marenzeke. I am still serving as the chairperson of the commission. And let me, for the record, allow fellow commissioners to also introduce themselves.
I am Melchior Vidot.
Victor.
Thank you, fellow commissioners, for that. So before we take your evidence this morning, I would like you to first state your full name.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Antoine Joseph Lenus.
Joseph Lenus. That's fine. So I would like to administer the oath first, and then we can properly take your evidence. Confirm that you follow Christianity as a religion.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will administer an oath as opposed to the affirmation. You may rise and just repeat after me. I swear
I swear
by Almighty God
by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
to this commission shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
Thank
you, Mr. Denus. You may take your seat. Now that you have taken your oath, I will just remind you again of some of the key rules that we would like you to abide by during your testimony. The first one is for you to tell nothing but the truth as per your oath. The second one is to answer all questions that are asked to you by the commissioners. And please answer those questions in full, to the best of your knowledge, and of course be truthful. Please be respectful in your responses, including when you are referring to other people in your testimony. No matter what your views are about those people, we would still want you to refrain from using derogatory or demeaning terms or words that undermine their dignity. You may still tell us what those people said, what they did, but without you using language of your own that demeans their dignity. We would like you to also conduct yourself with respect and dignity in terms of how you interact with the commissioners. We owe you a duty as a witness that is appearing before us to treat you with dignity and respect. And whenever you think or you feel that we are not living up to that expectation, please remind us so that we will take corrective action. To those that are in the room, including the members of the media, I remind you again that you have a duty to refrain from interrupting proceedings. That includes making sure that your mobile phones are switched off completely or they are on complete silent mode. And if you are going to move out of the room and come back into the room, please close the door gently so that you do not disrupt the proceedings here. Okay. So I think we will start, and the way we conduct our business during testimony is that we take turns to ask questions. So I will start, and the other commissioners can come in as and when they have a question for you. So maybe a good starting point, as usual, is to tell us. Maybe let me, for public transparency purposes, I think let's clarify that what the Commission is interested in, particularly from you, and you would know this from the summons, but for public transparency, the Commission has called you to give evidence that pertains to two parts. So the first part is your role, if you played any role during the incident or the events that took place at Montagne Posee on 5 and 6 December 2024. Then the second part is for us to understand from your experience now of what needs to be done in order to make sure that what happened at Montagne Posee on 5 and 6 December 2024 does not ever happen again. And also, broadly speaking, how we can address some of the challenges that the prison service is experiencing insofar as taking care of inmates is concerned. So those are the two broad issues that we are interested in as the Commission. So maybe let's start with the first one, which is your role, if at all there is any role. Were you working for the police, for the prison service, or the military in 2024? Who were you working for?
Mr. Commissioner, in 2024, I was working with the police as Assistant Commissioner for Visible Policing.
So you were Assistant
Commissioner of Police.
Commissioner
for Visible Policing.
Okay.
Visible Policing, there was all the stations around the country, traffic section, and command center.
Okay.
I was responsible for this.
Okay. What does visible policing?
It was something which was in the structure.
Okay.
Because sort of to be visible, because there was a community policing responsible for the police stations in the country, and sort of to become a bit more visible, because the police you have to be visible to the population for them to know. But with the new structure by the new commissioner at the time, the then Commissioner Mr. Babi, there was this component of visible policing. Okay, and there was visible policing, specialized services, but I was responsible for visible policing.
Okay.
So that traffic section, command center, the stations and all.
That is very clear. So let's go to the events of 5 and 6 December 2024. Were you present at Montagne Posee? Or did you take part in any way?
Well, commissioners, Mr. Commissioner, I will say that I was present because, in fact, I was informed by Mr. Weeds on the day itself. I think on the 5th. I was informed around 1700 hours, around this time, that if I am away, there is an issue of Montagne Posee. I was at home, in fact. And I said no. I said no, and he told me there is something going on at Montagne Posee. And so I said, okay, I will check with the command center. And I called the command center, and they told me, yes, since around earlier there was an issue of prisoners making some disturbance, causing some disturbance at Montagne Posee. And I said, okay.
1 minute. When you say Mr. Weeds, you mean another police officer?
Ned Weeds, the commissioner, the assistant commissioner,
Okay.
the national commissioner for specialized services. And I think it was around 1830 to 1900 hours, maybe, that he called me again and told me, don't you think it is best we go up and see what really is happening? I said, okay. And I told him I will meet you at Ansoupin police station, because I live at Perseverance. I drove up to Ansoupin, and I waited for him. He came in the Jeep. I think the Jeep was being driven by, if not Mr. Dacambra, but Mr. Bouzin. And we go up together in the jeep with Mr. Weeds. And we went up to Montagne Posee. There was no issues at the gate, at the main gate, which now I know it is gate number 1. And we went up, and four of us we went in the office. I think it was the office of the commissioner. That is an office of the commissioner right now, the same office. And the deputy commissioner at the time, Mr. Songwa, was there. And I will say, because I stated in my statement that me and Deputy Woods now, we were sort of spectators in there, because, you know, there were people running all over the place. And I never went to the main prison, in fact.
Sorry, just told when you say there were many people running around the place, what kind of people are these?
Well, there were prison officers, and even in the office, there were the deputy there, some officers. At the time, I was not aware of the names of the prison officers. And I will say there were not, things were being done just like this, because normally people will agree that whenever you have a situation, you know, you can have a board and something planned, okay? But there was none, and DCP was, they said that DCP was taking the mental. But for me at the time, I said, come on. To myself, under the prison statute, it stated that once a police officer is assigned for a duty in the prison, it never says any rank, is assigned for any duty in the prison upon the request of the Commission of Prisons. This person is a prison officer. So once you are in the prison, even though you are whatever rank in the police, you are subjected to the command and control of the Commission of Prisons. Because once appointed as a Commission of Prisons, it is said in the law that you have command, control, and superintendence of the prison. I will say that, okay, things were there, and there were quite some noise, because from the office, you can hear from, once you go outside, you can hear some commotion in the middle block. And there were some issues going on, and when we asked questions, they said that there were some officers who had been taken hostages. And at one point, one of the hostages, Mr. Radigon, I know Mr. Radigon very well, because we grew up together at Osoban. He came, I saw him with his shirt. There was no epaulette on his shirt, and he said that he came from Osbalo, and at one point, I think the fire service came when we were there. But I will say that I spent quite a little time in the office, because I went down outside the main office. It was outside the meeting room, and I stood there. In fact, Mr. Wiz at one point came, and we were watching what was really happening.
1 minute. But when you started hearing commotion or hearing loud noises coming from the mill block, were there any forces, be it police or the forces, present on site?
Of what I was meant to understand, there were police officers at the mill block. And Mr. Dakambra, when we came, he left, because he came with us. And he left to the mill block. And SP Marie was with some officers at the mill block. Because at one point, SP Marie came, he had an injury on his thigh, I think, right thigh maybe. And he had an injury, and he was treated, and then they went again back and forth to give us information of what was really happening. But as I said, to take part directly in decisions and all, no, because we were there, me and Mr. Weeds, even Mr. Posee, I know the officers under the command of ASP Agatin came also on site. And I was aware of the military coming in the prison when I saw Lieutenant Colonel Ronalda. We were standing. We were standing together talking outside the meeting room.
But before that, before all these people were coming in, so there would have been a meeting point, like in the meeting room of you say it was the CP's office. Were there any briefings or any discussions going on, and who were present at that time?
You know, I will not call this at the time, this is briefing sort of, because like I said, there was people talking all at once.
Who were present? Just tell us.
I will remember the Deputy Songoa was there, like I said, myself, now Deputy Weeds, Mr. Posee, Dacombra came, he was with us, SP Marie. There might have been some prison officers, but at this point, I do not know them by their names. No.
Was Lieutenant Colonel Olanda present?
At one point, yes. Okay. It was then that we went down. We spent a lot of time down outside the meeting room, me and him talking, you know, what really was happening.
Was the Commissioner of Prisons as well in there?
Yeah, she was in the office. She was in the office at that point. And like I said,
there was no coordination between those who were present trying to organize any plans of how to abate the situation?
No, not really, no. Because people were talking, you know, talking all at once. And I do remember at one point, Mr. Songoa told the officers not to use lethal weapon. This I don't remember. He told them.
So there must have been a decision that at
Yes.
least the police or the other forces who were present would go down to the prison if they were saying that no lethal weapons should be used.
This was said to SP Dacombra and SP Marie.
So there were forces.
There were forces. The police force was there.
Directives would have been given.
Yes.
To have the forces go down to the.
You know, the police, of what I was made to understand, the police from response services, they were there since the beginning of the incident. What timing was it? I will not know, but they were there because when Mr. Wiz called me, even Mr. Wiz was not aware of the officers going up to the prison because he was the one in charge of response services at the time. He was not aware of the officers leaving Petit Paris to go to Montagne Posee, and we were not aware. As the assistant commissioners, we were not aware. So the police were there.
But were there any questions asked as to who had asked for assistance from if ever assistance was requested from the other forces?
It was later that we learned that the prison authorities they called. Who called? I will not know. They called Mr. Marie directly to inform him of the situation, and then he informed the commissioner. But as assistant commissioners, myself and CP Weeds, we were not aware of it. I never knew how Mr. Weeds came to know about what was really happening in the prison, because he called me and told him I was not aware. No, and for me, when the military came, I saw Lieutenant Colonel Ronalda, and again, right down, he said not to use lethal weapon. So there were sort of instructions not to use lethal weapons. Okay, but I will not know what kind of weapons. I'm not an expert on weapons. I will not know who was carrying a weapon because, like I said, I never went to the main prison.
Mr. Linus, at the time that you were in this responsibility, your rank and whatever, who was your immediate superior?
Deputy.
So you answered to the deputy?
Yes.
Did you on occasions talk directly to the commissioner of prison, commissioner of police?
You know, when we went there, there was an instructions, only one person will talk to the commissioner. But I do remember I called him once But there was an issue of network, and then deputy said that he will be the one to brief the commissioner of police. Because around this time there was a network problem. You have to be in certain places for you to be able to get the network to use the phone. And most probably the deputy was the one briefing the commissioner. Because for me, I do take it that there should have been briefing.
But when you say most probably, I mean, this is a very serious incident. I suppose it must have been on a constant,
Of course.
constant basis that
Of course.
communications were being made with the Commissioner of Police.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you witness, or do you know if it really happened?
No, I did not witness if it really happened, but later we learned that the commissioner was being made aware by the deputy commissioner. But for me to be there to know, I know that the deputy said the point of contact would be through him, because when we came, he was there. Okay, he was already on site when we arrived at Montagne Posee.
So there was no one there guiding, giving orders as to what operation would be taken in order to meet the situation that was going on at the prison?
You know, what was really happening was that when officers will report to the office of what the situation is in the prison, it was then that decisions were made. It was not something that we do have a plan, where to go in the prison, how to enter the main prison. I did not say, because in fact, I never went into the control room. Good? We met in the office. Okay, but I think that there should have been there is a meeting room down, and there should have been some more precise discussions with regard to the operations. But it was only when the officers, I will say SP Marie or SP Dacambra, will come from the mill block, come in with information. One information which was used was the inmates, they sent some videos on Facebook.
So if the inmates sent videos on Facebook, that means they were capturing these images.
They were capturing what was happening.
And for them to send it on
Yes.
Facebook, that means they had network somehow for them to
because the
have this
jammer,
sent.
Mr. Commissioner, of what I made to understand, the jammers were positioned sort of to block the office, but giving more opening. In fact, the inmates themselves, they installed the jammers. Because when there was the videos and the pictures of the mill block, by seeing what they were doing, okay, barricading themselves with mattresses and all, then decisions were made according to.
So you mean it? The officers who were there, supposing to come up with a plan as to how to meet the situation that was in the prison at that time, were relying on videos that they saw on Facebook or?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
At one point in time, yes. Because some prisoners, I think on the second floor, they have barricaded themselves, okay? And then there were discussions how to get in. You know, some people will take me wrong, but when we have a fire, we prevent the fire from getting oxygen. Because for me, the situation of what I was made to understand later is that, in fact, it is important for me to make it clear. I went up there on the 5th. What happened afterwards, the 6th and all, I was not aware. I was not aware of what really happened until there was this press conference, some of the weapons removed from the prison, and when there was this issue of investigation that I was made to assist in contacting the doctor to get the medical reports. So you rightly said, Mr. Commissioner, because at one point, yes, the videos on Facebook was helping to really get inside.
We see that the information on Facebook by the prisoners were the intelligence supplied to the authorities in order to carry out the operation.
Yes.
And the authorities themselves had no
but
intelligence whatsoever.
There was no plan. They don't have the map of the prison itself. But because right now we are trying to get it. You know, there was no plan on the board which will say, okay, this is the mail block. You enter to this door. Okay, you get access from there. There was none of this. Okay, because if there was this, at least sort of a dummy, it could have been useful. Okay.
But you said that when you got at the prisons, around what time you arrived there?
Must have been around 7, if I'm not
Around
mistaken.
7.
Yeah, around 7.
And you saw that you met with Mr. Adigon, didn't you?
I met with Mr. Adigon about 30 minutes later. When I saw him, and he told me that he came from Osvaldo Clinic.
Okay. So, which means that Mr. Adigon was no longer a hostage.
No, he was no longer a hostage.
And
No.
were there hostages at that time?
No, I don't think so. No.
There were no hostages?
No.
Okay. Now, did you, at this point, when you were there as an observer, did you hear any directives given to what was the mission now towards the operation?
No.
So there was no mission?
No. You know, but for me, if we go according to the situation itself, was to try and release the prison officers.
So that was the main purpose.
Maybe that was the main purpose, because of what I heard, 4 officers, if I'm not mistaken, was taken hostage. Okay? So the main mission was to get the 4 officers. And then I do not know how the mission was, after getting the 4 officers out, there came the killings. The brutal, I will say, people get me wrong, the brutal assault of the prisoners. Because, commissioners, it is important to take note. Inmates are still coming in front to say that they were assaulted on the 5th of December 2024. Iranians are coming forward to say that they were assaulted. So I will say that, was it only the mission to get the release of those 4 officers, or there was some other plan to get back to some inmates? I will not know, but for me, once getting the release of the 4 officers, then there could have been a stand down.
So,
the inmates, they were in the cell.
Following from what you just mentioned, so are you suggesting that there were inmates that were targeted? Because if you say they're going to get back at the inmates, so there would have been some targets.
Well, when I visited the prison in December last year, okay, that's what I heard. There were some targets. Because for me, if the 4 officers were released, then why was there the necessity to bring in the military armed officers, okay, in the prison? Because if at that time the prison authorities, they were made aware of the recommendations in the 2017-2016 inquest on Robert Banan, on their recommendations, okay, there should have been a different situation.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that part. I would like us to go back to 5 December. So I take your point that once the prison guards who had been detained had been released, then there was no need to send in the security forces to break into the prison. But some witnesses have said it was necessary because the inmates were burning down mattresses, they were breaking properties, so they needed to then stop the inmates from doing that. So what I need from you is, as someone who was observing the process, I understand what you said, that you were not making decisions, but as someone who was observing the process, is it true that even after the guards had been released from prison, the inmates were burning down mattresses and destroying properties so much that they needed to be stopped from doing that?
You know, Mr. Commissioner, I think the main point here is what really transpired the inmates to do this.
Okay.
There could have been a reason. Because after getting the release of the 4 prison officers, the main point now was to restore order in the prison. But restoring order doesn't mean assaulting. Doesn't mean use weapons against prisoners. For me, this is not restoring order. Because we all know that in trained police officers, we know that in a crowd, when there is someone committing an offense, we cannot do the arrest. We pinpoint who this guy is, and then we can arrest later. Because if you will go to do the arrest now, it will cause problem. And one point, I was not in the male block. If the inmates, they were in the male block, locked in, then the point now was to restore order.
To restore order. Now,
Because, Mr. Commissioner, sorry, sir, if you create an atmosphere to cause the prisoners to retaliate or to, like we say in Creole, making the prison hot, fairly so, you are putting your officers in danger. No, because if the 4 officers, the point was to release the 4 officers and put the prison under control. But under control doesn't mean assault and all.
yeah. So take us back to, and I take your point there. Take us back to the room where the leaders are seated, the leaders of the different units. And one question I would like you to help us understand is whether there was a discussion on this very point that you are mentioning right now, that look, the prison guards have been released, no one is being held hostage anymore, and yes, we need to still deal with certain issues inside the prison, but we need to be probably avoid escalating the situation. Was there this discussion? Did it take place?
No, I don't think, because in my presence there was none. Maybe before I came.
Okay.
But when I came, there was none. Like I said, in fact, when I arrived, it could have been that the prison officers were released. Okay, before we arrived at the prison, me and my colleague. But in our presence, no.
Okay, so the prison guards were released before you arrived.
Yeah,
so you wouldn't know the conversation that
No,
took
I will
place
not know.
before.
No.
But you would know the conversations that took place after,
Yes.
right? Because you had arrived.
Yes.
So when you arrived, were they already security forces trying to breaking into the prison, or there was still a discussion on?
No, but
How to
when I arrived, police officers were still at the mill block.
So they had not yet started breaking
No, they
into.
were at the mill block. Apparently they
Oh.
were, because like I said, I was not at the mill block.
Okay.
But definitely they were there, because if at one point Mr. Mari was injured, so they were.
So you arrived,
No.
and correct me if I'm misinterpreting or misunderstanding what you are saying. So you arrived when the operation was already underway
Yes.
to break into the prison,
Yes,
and a decision had already been made
of course,
to,
yes.
to get into the prison.
Yeah.
Now, but you also said you arrived with Mr. Dakambra.
Yes, Mr. Dakambra,
Right.
yes.
So when you arrived with Mr. Dakambra, what happened? I'm asking this question because Mr. Dakambra is said to, and I think he also agrees that he took part in the operation.
When we arrived, Mr.
Break into the
Dakambra,
prison, yeah.
like I said, we came up in the office,
Wow.
and SP Dakambra said, okay, he will go. You know, Mr. Dakambra is I will say that he's highly trained officers in this respect.
Okay.
Okay, give him his dues because he's well trained. And he said, okay, he will go and see what was happening. Okay, so he went there.
So he went,
He went,
down
yes.
there. Okay. Do you know? And if you don't know, it's okay to because I understand your situation that you were observing. So and it is your observations that we want to benefit from as a commission. So do you know if at the time that you arrived, if there is anyone who instructed Mr. Dakambra to go down to join the other forces, or he went there by
He went
himself?
there because the deputy, he informed the deputy said yes.
So it is the deputy police
Yes.
commissioner who
Yes.
deployed him. And apart from Mr. Dakambra, do you know of any other officers who were instructed by any of the leaders to
You know,
take part in
because
the operation down
in
to
this
the north?
in this purview, whenever Mr. Dakambra is a superintendent, definitely when he will be instructed, he will then instruct officers under
Others.
his command.
Okay.
No, and I know that Mr. Gatin was there. Gatin is under the command of Mr. Dakambra. And definitely SP Mari, being the assistant superintendent, when Superintendent Dakambra will arrive on the scene, definitely he will be the officer in charge now.
Okay.
If ever on
You have addressed me there. Now, the other question I would like us to get your evidence on is at the time that you arrived in that room where the senior leaders are sitting, did you observe in any way if there was a radio communications between the leaders or the commanders of the different units and their officers who were inside the prison?
no, inside the room, no.
You didn't see that?
No,
Okay.
Because if
and
there was
you-
any radio communication, it would have been from the control room.
Okay.
Which
So
is-
how, in what way were they monitoring and giving instructions
Instructions
to
was
the
given.
officers? Yeah.
At one point, SP Dakambra will come to the office to report on the situation. Then they are given instructions.
Okay, so you were saying the way in which the commanders would liaise with the officers who were inside the prison is that the officers would, some of the officers would come back to report
Yes.
and go back with further
Yes.
instructions.
Yes.
I know this may be difficult for you to remember, but can you try? How often did Mr. Dakambra come back to the office and went back?
Couple of times.
Couple of times.
Yes.
Okay.
I will not remember the exact amount, but a couple of times. But I will say that every time he came, still Mr. Songwa will say, please do not use lethal weapon.
Okay. Now, whilst we are there, is there any other person apart from Mr. Dakambra who was coming to brief the command element in that room?
Mr. Mari came
Mr.
once
Mari.
or twice, yes.
Okay. So
Because he
it's-
came when he was injured.
Okay. So it's Mr. Mari, ASP Mari,
As Mari, yes.
Superintendent Dakambra. Any other person?
And then ASP Agatin, I think, came once.
ASP Agatin.
Yes.
Okay. Now, any other person?
No, I will not recall
Okay.
any other
So
persons.
these three, when they were coming back to brief the commanders in the room, did you at any point hear them informing the commanders that there was chaos inside the prison, as in people are being beaten, there is no order or coordination amongst the security forces because the military officers are following their own instructions, the police officers did you hear anything like that?
What was said was that the prisoners, the inmates, were throwing
Stones.
stones,
Okay.
were throwing hot water, and paint, and even urine.
Okay.
That was what
That was what was said.
was said, yes.
Okay. Did any of these three officers who were coming back to liaise with the commanders, did they at any point ask that there be an overall operational leader down there in the prison? I'm asking this question because there were different security units. So it was a joint security operation involving the military, the police, and other. So now, but the evidence we took is that there was no one who was leading that joint operation inside the prison. So did they at any point ask that we need to have a leader that gives us, who coordinates us?
In my presence, there was none. But for me, I will say today that this should have been, if there was to be an overall command in the prison, it should not have been the police nor the military. It should have been the prison officer.
Yeah, I think we'll get there maybe when we talk about what needs to be done going forward. But I think your answer now is, first, there was no overall leader down there. It's different security forces doing what they think is...
Yeah, because the military was
the
under
right
their
thing.
command and the police was under their own command.
Yeah. And at the same time, nobody raised this issue
No, in my presence now.
as a concern to say maybe to improve the way we are responding to this crisis, we need to have
In my presence now.
defined leadership.
Because like I said, I was in, but then I spent quite a lot of time also down
Yeah.
talking with Mr. Lieutenant Colonel Rolada. And at times I was not aware of what really was happening in the office. But in my
So now-
presence, I was not.
Yeah.
I
So,
not
so I take your point that nobody amongst these three officers, ASP Mari, Superintendent Akambra, and ASP Akasin, nobody really informed the commanders that people are being beaten. They spoke about, or they reported that the inmates are throwing hot water, paint, stones, and so forth. So, which means they said they are facing this kind of resistance. At that point, when the three or any of these three officers raised or provided that update, do you recall if ever there was anyone who then suggested that, considering the resistance that is being given by the inmates, perhaps we need to stand down as a way of not escalating the situation? Or to say we need to engage with the prisoners, maybe we need a hailer to communicate with them and issue instructions for them to vacate the prison?
You know, Mr. Commissioner, when the first time, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Dakambra came and said that inmates were throwing stones and whatever at them because they were up on the second floor and they were down. I remember the deputy told them, please do ensure that no one is injured. So just do not go in. It was around this time that the videos started to surface on the social media. When the inmates, they were up on the second floor, the videos started to surface on the social media, and plan was made how to tackle them inside.
Okay.
Because they were barricading themselves with mattresses and all. Okay. Like I said, I saw this on video. I was not physically present on site itself.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Sangwa was, now I take your point that when police officers are in the precinct of the prison and conducting prison operations, they fall under the, but maybe let us be the ones to make that conclusion as a commission after looking at all kinds of evidence before us. What we would want from you is to help us understand the nature of communication that was taking place amongst the different leaders in the room. So one of the issues that I would like to maybe explain to us is when Mr. Dakambra, Mr. Mari or Mr. Agatsi come to give updates on how the operation was going, is there a specific individual to whom they would direct their update?
They will direct it to the deputy, because as police officers, they will come directly to the deputy commissioner.
Okay. So they would direct to the deputy. Now,
Yes.
after they direct the update to the deputy police commissioner, what did you see? And I want what you saw and what you heard. What did you see the deputy police commissioner doing?
You know,
With the update that has been given.
Mr. Sogwa definitely being this person, I would say not aggressive. He will, he discussed it. Okay, because if the military is there, he will discuss it. But like I said, there was not this proper discussion. He will just advise.
So allow us to make that conclusion that there was no proper. But what I want, maybe we're trying to test something, right? So that's why, in this question, it requires you to be a bit more detailed.
Okay.
So the Mr. Dakambra or ASP Mari or Mr. Agatsi come and give update and say this is what is happening in the prison, and they are addressing this the commissioner of prison, deputy commissioner of police, then are you saying the Deputy Commissioner of Police would then ask the others for their opinions on what they think should be done?
No, it was not like this now.
Okay. What was it like?
It was just he will informed. Okay, because normally when the report is being said, they are all there, all the leaders.
They are hearing.
They are here. They are hearing. Okay, and at one point they will just say, when I was in the room, in fact, just prevent officers from getting injured.
Okay. So So any of the leaders would just speak,
Yes.
and give their views.
Yes.
Let's create maybe a scenario where two people are speaking at the same time. Would Mr. Sangwa moderate the discussion?
No.
Okay. So it would just...
Yes.
Okay. I'm asking these questions because I want to establish where the leadership was. Not in terms of the law, but also in practice.
No.
Right, okay. So people would just give their views.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Right? And were some of the views conflicting?
Well, I will say at one point, yes, because when you are giving different views, officers in the operation itself, they will be confused.
Okay.
Which one to take,
Can you tell us of one incident during the discussions where you witnessed a disagreement in terms of how to proceed with the situation?
Well, like I said, one of this was when the video started to surface, because how to get inside, they wanted to get inside.
Yeah.
The inmates were inside, if not mistaken, on the second floor. Okay? Wanted to use the video, how to get inside to the inmates. No, that was one point which was discussed. You go this way, you go that way. Okay, and I do not know what they did on site itself, but when the video started surfacing, then this really creates some issue because you will get to know now what really was happening.
Yeah. So the disagreement, it's not really a disagreement. It's I take it. It's like different views.
Different views, yes.
On how to proceed.
Yeah. Because there were no...
Sorry on that one. So these different views, were they ever resolved as to, okay, these are different views, but this is the view we are taking?
No, I do not remember this being the case.
Okay.
I don't remember, but at one point, either Mr. Dakombra will give his views because, like I said, his training permits him to do so. He'll give his views on how to address these issues. There was even at one point to use ropes to go up in the second floor, so as to try and get to the inmates, because it was difficult to go in the stairs according to what was reported. Like I said, I was not there on the main block itself, and to really access to where the inmates were. There was on the second floor. They said they were throwing bricks, throwing whatever, and it was difficult to get access to them because they have barricaded themselves. But then Mr. Dakonra was okay. He will see to it, because he will plan and move with it.
Now, I understand you have been a senior police officer, so can you help us to understand the role of a commander in an operation? So let's a situation that is similar to what we are discussing now, where you have yourself, let's say, I'm not saying you were the commander, just trying to understand the role of a commander. Let's say you are the commander sitting in another location and you are commanding security forces that are undertaking an operation in another location, and you have a leader who comes to give you reports or updates of what is happening. What is your role?
Well, the role is to discuss. Once you get the report, is to discuss and plan.
Okay, discuss and make decisions.
Make decisions.
And give
Definitely,
instructions.
yes.
Right? So you give commands.
Yes.
Right. Is that what was really happening in this situation?
I will not say it was like this.
Okay.
I will not say this.
It was just a discussion, and then ultimately, either it's Mr. Takambra, ASP Mari, or Agatsi will eventually.
But SP Mari will surely request for what needs to be done.
Okay.
He will not just go and do it. He will ask
For what needs to be done.
what needs to be done.
So did he ask
No.
for what needs to be done?
He will talk with he normally talks with Mr. Dakambra.
Okay. Okay. So, and then it would be Mr. Dakambra. But did Mr. Dakambra get any? Because that's what I'm trying to understand. Did Mr. Dakambra get any instruction on? Because he was coming to give you. Okay, not you. He was coming to give updates, reports, with the view to get orders on how to proceed, right? Of course, he would not just receive orders. The orders would be discussed first and then a decision is made. I am trying to understand if he was getting specific orders on how to proceed.
In the office, he was getting, because whenever he will talk to the deputy, Mr. Zongoa, he will be given instructions, because he will come with reports, he will come with ideas, and Mr. Zongoa will tell him, okay, go this way.
Okay.
In the office, he was.
Okay. So there were orders.
There were orders,
Okay.
you know. And like I said, there was one point with I will just repeat, sir, is the deputy commissioner reiterated, do not use
Leather weapon. Yeah.
this. Whenever he said, on several occasions he said this, I was there. And I know that whenever I was not in the office, he constantly has been saying this.
So then we can leave this part. I want to leave this part knowing that I've correctly understood what you said. So is your testimony that yes, there was no proper coordination in the group where the commanders were sitting, where you could say this is the overall person in charge formally, and this is how decisions are made. But still, orders were given on how to proceed down there in prison.
Mr. Commissioner, I will say that there was no proper coordination, yes, but orders were given.
Orders were given.
Yes.
Okay. So we cannot say that the security forces went rogue, in the sense that they were not receiving orders from the commanders.
They were receiving orders.
They were receiving orders.
But what they did further down, this was not what was said by the commanders.
Yeah, maybe let's say some of the things they did.
Some of the things.
Yeah. For example, the use of live ammunition.
This was not.
Yeah. But orders to break into the prison were given instead of waiting to de-escalate the situation. Okay. So we then should say some of the orders. Okay. I think on this particular point, I am answered before we move to the second part of testimony. Commissioners, is there anyone who wants? I mean, we may still come back to the 5 and 6 December. Yeah.
You said that Deputy Commissioner Songwa gave instructions not to use lethal weapons. That instruction was given to the police because you said, like, at least to Mr. Dakambra. But there were military officers involved. Was that similar instruction given to the military officers?
Mr. Commissioner, I will say Lieutenant Colonel Ronalda gave the same instructions down to his officers not to use lethal weapons. He gave the instructions to the military officers. But like I said, no one gave instruction to use, but yes, he said, do not use lethal weapon.
And when the operation was being carried out, were they all in one group, or were they split into different groups as to different functions within the operations that each one had to carry out?
So I will not know what really transpired, what really happened in the mail block because I was not there. But I do not know if they were in different groups or in the same group, when they were in the prison itself.
But were there instructions given as to...
Instruction was given too.
As to, okay, some of you will be in that group and the other group...
No, there was no...
And then...
The military and the police. Instruction was given to the police. Instruction was given to the military.
Okay.
No.
And were there different groups as in respect of the operations? Were there different groups that had to do particular functions or in the operation?
No. This wasn't according to my knowledge when I was there now.
And you've also identified certain weaknesses in the way things were being done. And did you yourself give an opinion as to, because you could identify certain weaknesses saying, oh, maybe it should not be done that way because this will occasion maybe or escalate the situation?
No, I did not. I did not because, in the disciplinary force, at times your views count, but at times no. Because in this situation, when we came, me and Mr. Weeds, we saw that there was no coordination per se. So how can you give your views in a situation where you really don't know? No, because it was a bit difficult to really know. I became to know about Stephen Mordon later on.
But you say like it was a bit chaotic the way that it was being operated. Could you not have voiced your opinion and say, look, I believe that we should strategize and have one plan as to how we should undertake the operation?
I did not say it, but Mr. Weeds voiced out. Mr. Weeds at one point said, but let us do things in a more
coordinated way,
but it was not. It was not.
So nobody listened to that?
No.
And during that time, what was the role of the CP? She was there, and what was her role? Did she give any opinion as to how the operation should be carried out?
No. She was there because the deputy was the one in charge of the operations.
When you say deputy...
Deputy of police.
Okay.
So were there any agreement between those involved, the leaders, as to a specific operation?
I will not know if they agreed to this mode of operations because initially I was not present when they met, because what really happened when they met in the first meeting I will not know. Like I said, because it seems that a bit they were at Montagne Posee earlier. Okay, we will not know. But if they decided on the mode of operations like this I will not. I will not. I cannot pronounce myself on this because if I do, I might be pronouncing on hearsay. But it was not something which happened in my presence on the mode of operations. It was something which was being done not according to the books, but out into the situation itself, information which was being provided.
But none of the officers who were given instructions none of them went down to the mill block to at least evaluate the situation.
No, we never went down. The person who was down was the three officers, Mr. Lacombra, Mr. Mari, and Mr. Gatson, and other police officers.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Mr. Denos, you know, in the command center, whilst the operation was being carried out and reports were coming in by verbal expression, was there an officer that was detailed to keep a log of what was being brought in terms of information to the command center?
There was no. I don't think there was but there was none, because there was only one police officer who was taking all the logs down there. All the officers were coming in and all, but in the control room, because if there was any officers taking logs of the situation, there could have been something today, which there is none. So there were no officers taking any logs on what really was happening, or anything with any items or whatever. No, there was none.
Whilst you were there, when you arrived at the prison, was the military already present there?
I will not know. Honestly, I will not know. But when I left, I don't really recall if I saw Mr. Hollanda, if I met him in the office. I think I met Mr. Hollanda in the office. Okay, and then we went down. Okay, so definitely if Mr. Hollanda was there, the military would have been there. But I did not see any of them in around. I saw only Mr. Hollanda and I think Mr. Mache, if I'm not mistaken.
But maybe would you know who called for the military's presence?
No.
At this site?
No, I will not know. I will not know. Because I myself, I was not made aware of this. I was informed only by Mr. Woods on if there would have been any call, it would have been made by the Commissioner to the Chief of Defense Forces, upon recommendations from the Commissioner of Prison.
And when you were there, from the moment you got up there until you left, did you notice that there were any negotiations taking place in order to sort of deal with the situation down at the mail block?
You mean negotiations to de-escalate?
Yes.
No, no.
So no attempt was made to try and...
Because when I was there, it was there that information came about the death of the first inmate, Mr. Machut, I think. And then there came the second one who was injured, who had to go to hospital. Some of them were leaving, were going to the hospital by ambulance. But there was not really negotiation to de-escalate the problem itself in the prison.
So this was a prison operation, yeah?
Yes.
It was a prison incident. It was a prison operation.
Yes.
What role that you were able to observe, what role took place on part of the prison authorities themselves? What did the prison authorities themselves do or play in this incident?
You know, the officers themselves, they were with the police officers because they were the ones guiding the police officers inside the prison. But I will not know the names because I was not really well versed with them at this time. And what they said that they were guiding the officers. And the commissioner at the time, okay, the deputy was the one who took charge of this operation in the prison.
You mean the deputy commissioner?
Deputy commissioner,
Okay.
I will say, because
Of prison, the commissioner of prison you talk about?
the commissioner of prison was there, okay, but it was the police was mostly involved in the operations. There were prison officers alongside them, and they said there were Seychellois Nepalese. Like I said, I will not know the amount of them because I was not down at the main prison. But when you listen to what is happening, like I should say, this is hearsay. Some of the officers, there were names which had come up, like Sergeant Tony Joe and Inspector Nicholas. And if I'm mistaken, one of them, there was at one point inside the room. They were guiding the police to access the prison.
Mr. Lenos, what I want to know from you, you know, with all due respect to Mr. Songwa, has Mr. Songwa ever conducted an incident at this level of gravity that was happening there? If you know.
I don't think so, because one major incident which happened in the prison was in 2016, and at this time I was a police officer, but we were not up there, and I don't think that Mr. Songwa has ever, in this kind of incident, this kind of location, partake in any incident of this sort.
Okay, but then if I may ask, do you think this responsibility given to Mr. Songwa on the day, was Mr. Songwa safely capable of conducting such incident whereby you've got arms and ammunitions and other forces that, you know, he had no control of? Do you think he was comfortable in running this operation?
If there was discussions, plan, he would have been comfortable. But the way it was, no. Because for you to run an incident of this sort, you need to get, like, if I'm mistaken, one Mr. said, the platinum, the gold committee, the president and all. And then you have the silver. Because this was never in place, you know. So I would say that with planning, it would have been a different situation maybe.
I've got a follow-up question on that one. He is at this time, he is the deputy police commissioner. So where would the operational plan come from, except from him? Is there another person who would have been expected to develop an operational plan, at least for the police, not for the military, for the police?
You know, for me, I think that, Mr. Commissioner, I think if there was an operational plan, this was an incident in the prison.
Okay.
Then the operational plans would not come from the prison itself, because they know the prison better than the police. Because your plans would have been where to get access, where to exit. you know. And the number of officers taking part in this, your officers, police officers, prison officers taken hostage, number of inmates, okay, and maybe this would have helped, because for you to do a plan, operational plan, there and then.
Yeah. So what would then be your response to others who are of the view that, yes, the prison authorities should play an important role in the development of the operational plan,
Of course.
but the person who should lead the development of that operational plan is the Deputy Police Commissioner? What would be your response to that?
If a plan is developed by the prison, then it should be led by the prison commissioner,
Okay.
because the plan is developed within the prison precinct. Outside will assist
To implement the
to
plan.
implement the plan, but not to take control of the plan itself.
Okay. I take your point back to you.
Okay, you say at some point you said that you observed certain injured being brought out, but at the time that you started having injuries being brought out, did the officers reconvene to evaluate the situation, because now they have a situation which is much different from maybe what they had anticipated? So did they meet to discuss, okay, we're having injuries, obviously we should adjust whatever plan that they had?
No. Because injuries was coming one after the other. No. Remove the injuries, remove the injured persons, and I do not know, because I myself, I never went to the ambulance. Okay.
Yeah, but you saw them
But
coming
I
out.
saw them coming out, yes.
But at that time there should be readjustment or reevaluation.
But when
Of
this
the
when this
conditions.
was happening, there was some chaos, because at one point some prisoners were locked in the visiting area, and when this was happening, I don't know who, they opened the gate and released the convicts. At the same time, I think that they tried to cordon off the scene where Mr. Mathiot passed away. Because knowing that Mr. Agatin is a well-experienced officer in forensic, he was in there, you know. And when the prisoners, the inmates who were released, they went inside the mill block, and whoever released them, I do not know. But when this was happening, there was a little bit of a chaos now, because inmates were getting out injured. There was some death is happening and serious injuries. Now this was a problem. There was no discussions to re-strategize, and no, there was none.
I think let's.
No.
Okay. Okay. No question. Okay. I think let's take a short break for 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes, please, so that we can continue with your testimony. So we take a break of not more than 5 minutes.